Five. All right. Welcome everybody to Los Cachirules, episode 1, first episode of this podcast. I am Albert Campa, I'm the host of the show for today. We got the panel, Christian, Fernando, John, and Juan. Got two other guys that might come on later. But I guess we can just start to introduce everybody. Myself, I'm here in Austin, Texas. Fan of Mexico ever since before 2002. So I came off to a bad start, and just here to talk some football. I guess we can start with you, Christian. You can go next.
Pues let's see. I'm up here in the Northeast, in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I've been a fan of Mexico since I was 5 years old. First game I went to with the national team at Azteca, I was sold and haven't looked back since. And here we are. So let's get it going.
Yeah, Fernando.
Well, I'm in Phoenix right now. It's kind of cool. It's a nice, chilly 80 degrees, and I've been a fan of Mexico since I was swimming my dad's nutsack. And, good times. Never look back.
Cool. John?
Hi, I'm John. I also live in Austin, although technically I'm in Lakeway right now. But as far as in Mexico, I started watching soccer when I was really young. There was a guy by the name of Cavino who was a forward for Pumas that really got me hooked on the game. And one of my earliest memories of watching of any kind of Mexico-related thing was when Mexico was playing in the World Cup in Argentina. We were on the school bus on the way home, and they were playing Tunisia. And Mexico got a penalty, and I remember being on the periférico, and the whole periférico just starts honking the horns in the air. Then by the time I got home, it was 3-1. Not necessarily the best memory, but I love having that memory of the but by the time I got home, the result wasn't as good, and then it was all downhill from there. But at least in that tournament, but it's been a fun ride. I mean, believe me, anytime I see Mexico win, I'm very happy. When they lose, it's like it's not anything that hadn't happened before. So, but I'm glad to be with you guys. It should be a lot of fun.
Yep. Cool. And finally, Juan.
Hey guys, I'm Juan. I'm the Cascarita legend from Los Angeles. I got hooked on Mexican football back when you would have Cruz Azul, Pumas, America. They would come to the Coliseum and they'd play Luis Angel Firpo and other Central American and Salvadorian teams. And I really got hooked on El Tri back in '94. That was the first World Cup that I remember, sitting down and prepping for the games and sitting down and watching them and ending up disappointed when they lost.
Man, every story always ends with disappointment. Come on, guys.
Well, that's the beauty of it. It's like love.
Yeah.
That's true. Love hurts.
So is being a Tree fan too.
There's some good stuff.
Some philosophy, man.
Of course.
Like one thing, I guess on the first topic of this game coming up, the one thing I remember I've been thinking of, and actually I saw an interview with Ambris where he was talking about that one shot he scored on the U.S. from a free kick, and I didn't know, but I remember listening to it, and Cantor was like, "What's going on? Mailda is underestimating his power and stuff." And I guess he didn't. Ambris was saying he didn't set up a wall
at all.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. And then at the last minute he did, and Ambris was saying that he actually liked that. He needed the wall to give reference to where the goal was. And then with the wall, he was able to do the tres dedos thing and just make that shot. It was pretty interesting. I didn't know that.
He ripped that shot. I'm surprised it didn't go right through the net.
Yeah, that game, even Memo Cantu scored in that game.
That looked like a backwards Roberto Carlos free kick right there with the curve right at the end.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, he had that epic mullet back then too. I remember that.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I think we all had epic moments back then and watched it.
That's true. That's true.
I've seen some kids with that mullet these days, man. But so, what do you guys think of this game coming up? I guess just the call up, the tactics that Tuca's gonna bring in. What are you guys' thoughts on everything?
Well, I think the call up is. I think it has the best that we have to offer. Honestly, I don't think I could or anybody can ask for anything better. Some people are crying for Gullit, but who cares about those guys? We actually do have the best. Even with injuries, we have good backups for those injuries. For example, what's his name? Gallito Vasquez he just couldn't recover from that game in León. So, his backup we were assuming it was gonna be Jonathan Dos Santos. He's pretty good quality. So, even if we ended up picking up more injuries, we have the depth to be able to cover them.
Yeah, overall, I think it's like my homie just said. I think it's really the best we have to offer. But most importantly, if we take into account the matchups, which is I think something that doesn't really happen a lot versus the U.S. I think we have everything covered. Really, we have speed on the flanks. We have forwards that are going to press. I really think that. Tuca's going to come out with Jimenez and Chicharito because they did such a good job of pressing the Argentines that I think that it's going to work against the U.S. They're gonna need to press the U.S. We need to be physical. One of the biggest things about the 2011 Gold Cup final is how physical we were. Even going into that game, people were talking about Bradley and Jones and how they were just going to run over Torrado and Castro. And I was kind of on the same boat. I thought that they weren't a good matchup for those two guys. And at the end of the day, I mean, they played them right off the field. And we're going to need a similar performance. The U.S., they do that a lot. They grind down the midfield, and then we're really left wanting. We don't really have answers for that kind of physical play. This team in particular, throughout the Gold Cup, showed they were patient. They had the patience to really knock the ball around and find the spaces they needed. It's going to be a very tactical game. Klinsmann is not going to – I mean, I don't know what he's been saying a lot of stuff lately, but he's not going to come out and play toe-to-toe. It hasn't worked out for the U.S. when they come out toe-to-toe. I don't expect him to do that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all of y'all. One thing I will say is, I mean, especially with the way they were playing against Argentina, which really surprised me, and the fact that it was working, it surprised me even more, was how vertical Mexico was to get their offense going, which I think would be huge against the U.S. because I think the U.S. is expecting Mexico to do their, three-quarter, jog up the field and, set up shop about 40 yards away from the goal and, make a mistake and let the other ones beat us on a counterattack. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen with Tuca. He's not that kind of coach. He's not going to take any unnecessary risks. He's not going to have both wing backs come up at the same time. If one comes up, it's going to be. It's not going to be as often as it was under. I mean, pick anybody. Herrera, Vasco. It's just not his style. And one thing that folks don't really understand about Tuca, at least in this country, is that he's been. How long has Tuca been a coach? He's been a coach since the early '90s.
Yeah, 30 years probably. Yeah.
He's been around, and I know that people say, well, he didn't do very well against River. Well, there's no way the United States is going to play as well as River played. That River was a very cynical way of playing. It ended up working out for them, and I don't think that the U.S. is going to be as cynical as River Plate was. And of course, at that point, Tigres didn't really have. I mean, they had 2 practices together, so they weren't really a team yet. But you know, the thing that bothers me about this game is the fact that it's even being played.
Agreed.
I'm not quite sure why we have to play it, why the U.S. has to play it. I mean, I understand why they're playing it. Don't get me wrong. It's like, you know, when is enough going to be enough? How much money do they have to just, you know, suck out of the fans and out of the TV partners and everybody else? It's not. It's not my favorite thing, and above all, I mean, it's for a ticket to like the biggest throwaway tournament on the planet, which is the Confed Cup. It's just worthless and ridiculous. So I'm not really too keen or upset, or you know, with whether they win or lose. Honestly, I really don't care because I think it's just a throwaway game for a throwaway tournament. I'm probably in the minority there, but I also have Texas OU that same day, so I'm sure I'll be just ridiculously emotionally spent, you know, one way or the other. So, an interesting day for me on Saturday, to say the least.
Well, we know where your loyalties lie.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm in the middle of, you know, you try broadcasting a game that goes 50-7, like we had to do last week in the sun, man. It was brutal. It was not fun. If y'all don't know, I'm one of the announcers for the. We do Longhorn Spanish radio here in Austin, and also on the web. And last week at TCU, in addition to watching Texas get their ass kicked, they had us out on the veranda of the end zone. That was our broadcast position. So the sun was just beating on us all day long, and I'm still peeling from my forehead was like the color of like Pern's nose after all the tequila that he drinks.
It's okay, man. You still look Mexican. You haven't lost it yet, so it's all good. But you know, I think.
Hey, but you need to put on one of those.
What?
One of the which?
I was gonna tell John he needs to wear a 10-gallon hat when he's broadcasting under the sun. Come on.
Well, man, you know,
Isn't that like standard issue for Texas?
I forgot it. I couldn't believe I didn't have it with me. When I finally got home, my wife looked at me. What the hell happened to you? Because I mean, I told her like I'd gone on like a 4-day bender. I mean, my nose was beat red. My foot it was awful. But anyways, like I said, I'm not a big fan of this game. I think it's you know, it's just it's exemplary of what this confederation is really about, which is extracting money from their biggest fan base, which is Mexico, and then also Mexican fans in the U.S. And enough is enough. I mean, come on, you know, let's have one Gold Cup every 4 years and be done with it.
Honestly, I like the way it is set up because honestly, I want to be able to see Mexico crush the gringos as much as possible. Anytime, and I'm really excited for this game. If I had the cash and the time, you know, I would go and see that game live, you know, this Saturday with my kids, you know, and it would be an amazing time. The more opportunities you have to have an amazing time, I think the better. And now we're gonna go see El Tu Camión in live. That's even better too, right? We're gonna see the bunker ball by Tuca, and using the best that we have. You know, that's gotta be a sight to see. And it's only gonna be what probably a once in a lifetime deal.
So how do you think this bunker is going to be? Is it going to be a backline of 5? Is Rafa going to play, or what?
God, I hope not.
I don't know.
In a bad way. I mean, you know, it's one thing to go against Messi and some of the other guys that aren't necessarily like the fastest guys in the world, but you know, the U.S. just, you know, they have way too much speed for Rafa. They don't necessarily have the technical skill, but they have way too much speed, and that scares me. And I got to tell you, I am thrilled that this Jordan Morris kid is coming to the Olympic tournament instead of this game, because that guy scares the piss out of me. He is a great player. He is a great player, and I cannot believe that he's at Stanford. He should be somewhere earning a ton of money because he's really good.
He's just learning though. He's getting his education. I guess once he's done, he'll be able to dominate.
You know, I think he's making it. I mean, personally, if he wants to play professionally, he's making a huge mistake because he's going to go into, you know, wherever it is that he goes at 20, right? And he's going up against guys that have been professionals for 7 years. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I guess that's good for, you know, as far as Mexico's concerned. But I mean, he is really, really, really good. He scares me, and he's only 19, 20 years old. Ugh. Yeah, so I'm glad.
I think you're talking about Morris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Morris. There's something interesting about him. Physically, he's got a really good build, and he's very, very fast and very savvy. When he played against Mexico a few months ago, coincidentally, he played against Carlos Salcedo and Rafa Marquez, and they did a very good job of containing him. If anything, I felt like he was very naive in the way he approached those two guys. He wasn't beating Salcedo for speed. He couldn't get around Marquez either, not necessarily through speed, but Marquez's positioning is just even at his age, it's ridiculously good. Going forward, yes, he is going to be a problem. He is.
It was like some terrible scrub, like even like Cata Dominguez.
Yeah, the idea of we always tend to experiment against the U.S. Like in 2011, after the Gold Cup final, we put on Christian Bermudez because he was having a really good season around that time, and as soon as he came on, Breck Shea had a field day with him. Completely. That's how the equalizer came. And again, this past friendly, Piojo decides to swap out the entire defense literally at halftime. Against the U.S., I know that even though they're friendlies, it's not really an advantage you want to give them. And you could tell Alanis wasn't quite settled. He's the one who lost his footing in the first goal with Morris, and they never really looked back after that. To your point, yes, I think that going forward he's going to be a tremendous asset for the U.S. But that's kind of almost a given. I mean, people like to bash the U.S., and I'm one of them, obviously. But there's a natural progression going on with their talent that is going to be very interesting to see, especially when it comes to the way that they match up with Mexico, because they match up very well with us, and they always have. We need to always remember that.
Well, see, and that's another aspect of the game to bring up is the fact that
You're muted.
We can't hear you, buddy.
We lost it. He got perma-muted. Don.
He got banned from the chat. I'm sorry, man.
Hold on, let me see if I can get him.
Let me pour some of this for you.
Shoot him a text.
Yeah, but
I think I saw you take a shot like 5 seconds ago, man.
yeah, I saw that.
What?
Did you take a shot?
What are you talking about?
Okay, because I'm gonna level with you guys. I'm having a beer as we're speaking, so it's okay.
My thought on Morris, though, I think John's still talking.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I don't think he knows that his mic is muted.
Yeah, let me check. Let me text him.
Man, pretty nice.
But
Go ahead.
but I think Morris, he's good. He's fast. He sort of like was scaring me like Josie used to do back before he started stinking. But I don't think he's the Landon Donovan type where he can run with the ball from like before midfield and stuff. So
no, not at all, not at all. But he doesn't have to do that. That's the thing.
That brings some relief. But yeah, he's definitely pretty good.
I really honestly, after seeing them in that previous game, I don't think there's nothing to be worried about in him. We got really good quality defenders now. Even with Rafa, let's say he decides to pass the baton to, Hector Moreno or maybe Diego Reyes, who knows? But there's nothing to worry about in my opinion. Mexico can easily contain that type of player. They have in the past, but he's not at the level of like let's say a Landon Donovan, but I personally don't see with the quality that we have in our squad, nothing to be worried about.
I mean, Landon Donovan was almost a once-in-a-generation type of player for them. It's unlikely they're going to have another player like that with those qualities.
He was a shooting star, definitely. But you know what? That shooting star already passed by. Ha ha.
Well, even then, not the last game against Mexico. Maybe it was his last game against Mexico. He right before the World Cup, he went up against Marquez, and Marquez kept him in his back pocket. Obviously, Landon has lost a lot of speed at that point, so it wasn't the same. Morris, I feel like he's got a lot going for him. I mean, I also feel like sometimes the Americans are trying to reinvent the wheel with their player development. He's 20 years old. He's in college. He's had a lot of success so far, but in a professional setting where he's asked to play day in, day out, I don't know how he's going to pan out in that sense. But I mean, you put him in front of Mexico, and yeah, I'll be thinking twice about him the moment he steps on the field.
What's up, RDL?
What's up, dude?
Hey. Yeah, we already started. We're just talking about about Jordan Morris for the U.S. and Mexico's defense, how they're going to put the defense for the game and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I haven't really. I'm kind of boycotting this cup. You know, I'm not really putting too much attention to it because I don't know. It's just, to me, it's like the Blazer Bowl. Like, you know, we were talking about it. It's like the last. You know, it's like the last doings of Chuck Blazer and you know those the crappy tournaments. So it's like really I haven't really been putting that much attention to it. But I kind of have a feeling that Mexico will lose though. You know, unfortunately.
Ouch, man. That's a possibility, and that you're saying sort of like what John was saying, and that's the first sort of the first I've really heard. Of course, everyone it's already sold out. There's going to be 90,000+ at the stadium. Yeah. The U.S. are all, they're wanting to win. Mexico, of course, is going to want to win. But I do see your point and what you and John have been saying.
It is. I mean, it's like you're playing one Gold Cup and then another Gold Cup, and it's like it just cheapens it. So it's like, I mean, honestly, I'm not even going to be watching. I'm actually going to be doing an event that day. You know. So, it's just like, fuck it.
Yeah, not paying your money to these guys, eh? I see, like when Fernando, when you were talking about like any Mexican game is good to see. And I went to the San Antonio game. That was like a couple months ago, and it was fun. It was a good time. I was hanging out with Pancho Villa's army and all that. But but I mean the game was. It was like the C team, like a bunch of scrubs and stuff. So I mean, the game in itself wasn't too impressive. Plus, it was a loss and everything. But I think these types of games, done like you guys are saying, once every 4 years, is pretty good. And then you have the qualifiers. I guess it would be 2 qualifiers, right? Against the U.S., which would be, that's a legit game, not these friendlies and stuff.
Well, even the qualifiers are a little redundant because the point of qualifying is to qualify. I don't really. I mean, when the U.S. got a point at Estadio Azteca last time around, and the way they celebrated it, even all the talk about how they helped us get us to New Zealand, it doesn't even ring in my head because at the end of the day, I mean, I only really care what we do at the World Cup. I mean, we're going to go play 4 games like we always do, and performance is really what I'm looking for in those 4 games. Hopefully that 5th game, but the qualifiers are, I mean, I don't see what the fuss is about, especially now with the appointment of the new coach. And a lot of the press is talking about how Osorio needs to make sure that Mexico qualifies in a very calm manner. Aside from the 2006 World Cup cycle, when is the last time we had a calm qualifying cycle? It's just
2006 wasn't calm. That was
well, I mean, relatively.
That was at the pinnacle of the Bocones Cangrejo Wars.
Well, right, but I mean, like results-wise, yeah, you're right. But on the field,
as far as one can qualify, that was pretty simple. He qualified. I mean, I'm a
simple path. As far as the one that was the most easy, it was '94 because that was when.
Right.
That was when everyone. That's how everyone expects Mexico to be at the Azteca. Was based on what those guys did in that, because that was the first time they played qualifiers at the Azteca in like 60. I mean, it had been almost 20 years. It had been a long time, and it just. But that was back when you only got 2 points though, so they lost that. So that Canada game was just absolutely enormous. It was, but that one, I guess '98 too was a little, not as dramatic. But ever since then, it's been and it's harried, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, recent memory. You look at the 2010, the South Africa cycle, and this past cycle. They were both pretty, just very uneven, and the press doesn't help, obviously, and the team wasn't clicking, and at least in 2014, we went to the World Cup and we played well. There was a real unity in the team, and there was. We were talking before about how Mexico is a lot more vertical now when they attack. I feel like that sort of came about in 2010. Once we moved past literally Pavel Pardo and any of those other guys that were playing in the midfield that were more lateral and less vertical. Once we moved past those guys, we were seeing what Mexico is about now, which is less possession in a way and more quick transition to get to the goal and to create goal-scoring chances. And that's what our player pool is suited for right now. So we should embrace it and not get caught up in this whole, are we going to qualify walking? Is it going to be easy? I don't really care. I just want to qualify. I mean, honestly, get to the World Cup, and that's where we do the talking. Battling it out with Honduras and El Salvador and all that, it doesn't really faze me. We need to get to the World Cup, win the Gold Cup, go to the Confederations Cup. Those are the real only metrics that we have. Even Copa America has lost a lot of steam because we're not sending good competitive teams to those tournaments anymore. So how else do we prove I don't really care about proving our worth in CONCACAF. We've done that for so long. It just doesn't hold a lot of weight. I mean, maybe it does for the U.S., but I don't think it does for Mexico anymore.
Yeah, we were talking actually before, weeks before, about giving the priority to Copa America, just forgetting the Gold Cup, and they should have done it maybe this year. Just send a scrub team to Gold Cup and go after winning actually the Copa America instead.
But see, if that would have happened, we wouldn't have had this game that we're gonna have this weekend. Maybe.
Yeah.
Plus a big possibility we're not. But.
Which doesn't really matter, according to two people so far. I mean, this game is just like a molero. It's just, another game against the U.S. and the Confederations. How does that line up with, because the whole deal behind Confederations is to prepare for the actual World Cup. But, John, I think, would say that that's sort of not really, that important. It's, qualifiers is preparation, and they can get a camp for maybe a month or so. How really important is the Confederations?
Can we not insult mole, please? I make mole.
Salsas? Mole. You making mole tonight?
Nah, that's next week.
I could use some of that right now.
We should make mole estilo molero. See? There's your catchline right there. Mole estilo molero. Igual que patrocinador de la selección mexicana de fútbol.
Yep.
You know what? At the end of the day, I kind of agree with how little significance this game really has. For me, it's actually interesting to see how these players face off against. We haven't had a good team against the U.S. In a couple of years, really. So this is going to be interesting, at least in that sense. And I do think we're going to win. I think we're going to win. I don't think there's really.
This is the golden generation too. If you
yes.
This is the the U17. Those players, Gio and Bella. I don't know who else.
Well, Miguel Lajun is actually part of that as well. I think he missed the cutoff by a few months when he was younger. I don't think that those guys itself is a golden generation. I mean, you can add Jonathan, you can add Lajun, even the younger guys, Jimenez and Herrera. I mean, that's a nice core. Tecatito as well. It's a very nice core of players with a lot of experience. I want to see them go up against the U.S. and really make a statement, kind of like we did in 2011 and 2009, a game that I was at, and I'm hoping for some of that as well. I mean, it's obviously a much higher quality team for the Americans, but once Gio and Vela figured them out and they started driving at them, I was right there. It was like watching candy fall from the sky. You just open your mouth and just watch, just eat it all up. It was amazing. I want to see more of that.
I think it's a possibility. Like I was thinking, I mean, if based on the U.S. defense and how they just crumbled in the last few games, and the firepower that Mexico has or they're capable of, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing ends up like a 4-0 or something for Mexico.
But keep in mind, Mexico's defense, they've also crumbled, and especially in the last moments, Trinidad and Tobago against Argentina. So, like I said, I mean, right now, Mexico doesn't have a defense. They're shaky.
As long
and we're going to get caught. Mexico's going to get caught, they're going to advance their back line, and they're going to get caught, or they're going to lose on a set piece.
That's what they got to not do, though. They can't be advancing that back line. They got to, well, not fully bunker.
Yeah,
they got to stay.
But Tuca doesn't really play like that, though. He doesn't take chances like that unless he absolutely has to.
The only thing that I can think that Tuca will do, because knowing that he only had 4 games, is that he'll play percentages and maybe he'll play the cat and mouse game. I mean, honestly, I think that's really that's what he should be doing, is play the cat and mouse. Basically, turn the tables and do exactly what the U.S. does to Mexico, is let them, concede possession and go for their counters.
That's where they had their most success versus Argentina too.
Exactly. I mean, although I hate that type of style to my core, it goes against everything I believe in. But I mean, honestly, it is effective.
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is that it's not. I mean, it is conservative. I mean, don't get me wrong. But it's just, the biggest difference with Tuca is that the minute you dispossess, you send it, you send that 40-yard pass to our guy that's breaking.
Yeah.
And the other guys just have to hustle and catch up. So I mean, I don't necessarily. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't think it's going to be as bunkerish as that. I just think that they're gonna be very patient. Like, be patient with the ball, and if the other team has it, they're not gonna bring another guy up to make a tackle or do that awful double team that they always do on the flanks and get beat and then just leave it, 80 yards of space. Yeah. I just don't see him playing like that, which I think is a good thing in a game like this because, it's, fuck, you know what? If we won 1-0 on like the ugliest Chicharito goal in history, like it hits him in the ear or something, by accident and goes in. I would love to win a game like that. Just once.
Oh yes. I would love that too.
Or
seriously. even out of the straight of the ass.
Goal off of Michael Bradley. You're just.
Out of that neo-Nazi head style. Yes. Oh yes, I would definitely love that.
Everyone wants to win 5-0. That's how I want. I want to win just ugly as hell. Just hideously ugly.
No,
That's great. It's not ugly. It's great.
2-0 is what we need to do. We just win 2-0 and just throw it back in their face. Get it over with.
We can score with this ass too, like Chicharito, and they call it the Mexican twerk. So
that is fantastic.
The Mexican twerk, yeah. So I honestly just want them to win no matter what, especially versus the U.S. As a matter of fact, that's the only team that I don't care, even if the ref gave us like a bogus penalty call like in the Gold Cup. I don't think they were bogus, but it just seemed like it. But anyways, I don't care as long as they win, and especially my son's birthday too. So.
Oh, well, happy birthday!
Oh, not to me. It's my son.
One of the things that they're talking about, we also have to look at is how the U.S. is going to line up. They're going to probably play Beasley as a left back and Fabian Johnson on the other side. So they're going to look to exploit Paul Aguilar and Miguel Ayun the moment that they step foot into the opposing half. That's where we can get burnt. I mean, forget speed down the middle. They're going to look to really get just speed on the flanks and get behind those two guys. Now, with Gallito being out, there was talk about dropping Guardado into that role and sliding Layun into the midfield with Jorge Torres Nilo as a left back or as a wing back. If you want to play a more conservative style, you got to play Jorge Torres Nilo because he's the kind of guy that scraps and he gets into it with those guys and he There was one play in the 2011 Gold Cup final where he won against Freddie Adu, and he slipped and he used his nose, like his face, to put the ball out of bounds so Freddie Adu wouldn't get around him. I don't know if I can see Miguel Ayun doing that. I don't know if I can see a lot of those guys doing that. These guys are going to need to get scrappy because that's what the U.S. thrives in. They love those scrappy goals. I mean, if you look back at the goals they've scored against us over the years, you're going to find very few actually like well-constructed plays. You're going to find a lot of rebounds or Michael Bradley just running somebody over and getting a toe on a ball. We need to be as proactive as on both sides of the ball is what I'm saying. We need to be careful on both sides. And if playing Miguel Ayun in the midfield means that you can have someone who's going to go back and forth and cover both sides of the ball, that's not necessarily a bad idea.
One of the benefits of having Ayun in the midfield is, believe it or not, he's actually one of the few guys in the Mexican League, or was, that actually would take shots and very good shots on goal. And when you have a player that does that, you're gonna pull attack defenders onto you, which will create more spaces. So I mean that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Has Torres Nilo ever scored for the Mexico, the national team?
No, but he's served up plenty of crosses. He's one of the better crossers that we have.
Yeah, that is very true. I still remember that cross that he did on that friendly versus Netherlands back in the.
Oh yeah, 2010.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Right.
Unlike Aguilar and Layun, those guys can't cross.
Well, Ayun is good with his right foot, not necessarily with his left, which is kind of a contradiction.
Jeez, are y'all watching this? Oh my God.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it.
What?
No, you guys are right about Layun. I just don't know if I want it. I would put Guardado back there if it was a 5-man line instead of a 4-man line, because a 4-man line just kind of scares me to death. I'd rather have him.
I agree.
If it's going to be a 5-man line, because I think that then he would fit very nicely. Now the question is Tecatito going to start, or is he come in with like half an hour left?
He's not going to start. I don't think he's going to start. Does he deserve to start? I think so, but I don't.
But you know what? You almost don't want him to start though, just because.
I agree.
Just because he seems like he'd be better off the bench.
I feel like because if he starts and doesn't find his rhythm, and they figure him out how to close him down, exactly, he just dies down, and then we lose that kind of punch. I want him to come off the bench.
That's my winning 11 strategy. I always put my scrub at first, and then I put in my good players at the end.
Oh, okay. That's how you get it from. That's cool. Hey, that's okay. Sampaoli, I was reading an article that he figures out, he tests his tactics using FIFA. Like, oh, I'm gonna go 4-4-2. I'm gonna try it out, and that's according to him. That's how he prepared for the Copa America campaign.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I was like, wow. So I might start doing that too. But
and then we can all be coaches.
Yes.
No, I'm just curious though. Does he think that passes can be completed when you have your back to a guy and just turn around and you can get 50 yards right to their feet like you always can on FIFA?
It can happen, man. Rafa Marquez can make it happen.
One thing on Tecatito, if he when he comes in, there's going to be some humiliation, man. He's going to fool some U.S. players pretty bad. And if he's in with Jimenez, the way I liked them both in the Copa America, he made some good passes to Jimenez, beating people off the dribble and then passing to Jimenez for like headers and stuff.
Man, I got to tell you, I cannot wait for Jimenez to start playing regularly because I think that guy is going to be a superstar. He is a big boy that has great on-the-ball skills. He could. I'm not saying he's going to like get to this level, but he's like Zlatan. I mean, he's that kind of player. This huge guy who has great ball control. They don't come around very often.
My God, I'll never forget, man. I actually had tears in my eyes when he scored that Chilena versus Panama. Oh my God, that Jimenez will definitely is definitely untapped potential right there.
I mean, I think you look at the guys that we have: Chicharito, Jimenez, Vela, Gio, Tecatito. Those are our forwards. Oribe is. I'm not sure about Oribe really. I mean, for all we know, he's probably going to start on Saturday. I think it's a mistake. Tuca talks about him and the way that he fights for the ball, but if you look closely with Mexico, he does fight. He's like the first line of defense. But the problem is he always fouls. He always commits a foul when he battles for the ball. So it's kind of pointless if all he's going to do is commit fouls and kill the flow of play. If he's not willing to, like Jimenez does that very well. He is sneaky. He comes around behind the defenders, takes the ball, and we have counters, and we can break in transition. Uribe doesn't really do that. He comes in and for some reason he always gets called for a foul, even if it's not his fault, and it just doesn't work. You don't need two guys that can do that. You need one guy that can do that very well and another guy that can get behind the defense. That's why I think he should go with Chicharito and Jimenez. I think it's the most logical choice.
That worked with Argentina.
They looked great. They looked really good against Argentina. I mean, people get upset that Chicharito misses, but you know what? Forwards miss. It happens.
Exactly.
Not all games are going to be 12-10. It's just, he'll get his. Don't worry about him. He's a forward. Everyone misses.
Forwards misses. Taxes are due. People die. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. But I really like the way that both of them played against Argentina. And, I thought that Raul actually had the best game of anybody for Mexico that day. He played really well, and I just as long as I think the fact that they kind of fit into Tuca's vertical counterattacking game better than obviously Tecatito does too, but more of a like a second half go after tired legs kind of guy. So, but I agree with you. He doesn't fit. He's more of a player that needs that guy to put the pausa in the game just so he can kind of get settled in and get find his spots. So I don't know. I got to say this. I mean, I've been following Mexico for a long time, and this is the first time in a long time that we have as good a depth as we have and of course not across the board, but this upcoming cycle should be really, really fun. And the other thing I got to say about that is that I would not play all the games at the Azteca. I think that new stadium in Monterrey deserves a game. I think the Monterrey crowd is a better crowd than the Mexico City crowd. As much as it pains me to say it, but it's true. And I think that place would be bonkers. It would be an incredible. I mean, the Azteca should still use it, but they'll play all 5 games there. I think that their other stadiums deserve it. I almost want to say that the Chivas Stadium deserves it too, but they don't never fill it up. So,
hey, that looks like it's a management problem there.
Yeah.
But by the way, talking about death, Mexico's winning right now 1-0 versus Honduras in the Sub-22.
Yeah, it should be like 6-0. Honestly.
Yeah, they've missed like 4 already.
Yeah.
Did anybody catch the article from Grant Wall talking about the Mexican American dilemma? I forgot the name of the article, but basically about the father's rooting for Mexico and one of the sons rooting for the U.S.
I saw that, but I didn't get to read it.
You didn't get to read
I
it?
need a link, man.
Yeah, read it. There's the guy, the son, 21-year-old. I think he was a journalism major. And as I was reading it, he basically on his Twitter feed or his Twitter name, he has Josie something, and I'm thinking, dude, 21-year-old guy. I said, well, that's kind of pathetic when you still have idols at 21 years old,
I agree. Especially Josie Altidore.
I know, but as I was reading this, I was thinking, dude, this guy is, and I know a bunch of them like that. He is a byproduct of that whole Cuba vision, Guerra Fria crap,
Yep.
So that's why one of the reasons why it's I'm not really getting that psyched up for this. Don't get me wrong, I want to see Mexico in the Confederations Cup, but it's just I don't know. I just don't like how Mexico gets to the Confederations Cup. And and I was and I was reading the article. Obviously the father's going for Mexico, the son's going for the U.S. But I was just I was just thinking when I was reading that, I was like, man, you got a bunch of. I think it was Joel that basically said that you have. What was it? Hey, Joel, are you there, by the way?
No, he's not with us yet.
Oh, he's not with us?
He's not with us anymore.
No, he's not with us. But but it's like Univision has really done a number. And Telemundo has really done a number on fans and just basically making them into like spazzos.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I haven't
That's
heard that actually say that in real life. Spasos.
there's like the campaign. They interviewed Jurgen Klinsmann. I saw an interview today where
Oh yeah.
he actually admitted he's like, yeah, I wish if we win this game, more Mexican American kids start rooting for the U.S. instead of Mexico, or both. Some may just root for Mexico, not the U.S. And then this Grant Wall article, seems to be sort of that similar type of propaganda where they're like, trying to get fans. I mean, U.S. people aren't fans normally of soccer. They hate soccer. They like football instead. So might as well just go for a foreigner.
Yeah, but the thing is, with that is the records and the stats do show that the soccer is growing among in the U.S. I mean, they wouldn't be building all these stadiums if it was gonna burn out like the old what is it, the North American Soccer League. But it's just I just have a problem with how they marketed soccer. And like it's basically to the soccer mom and to the I don't want to say pocho, but it's basically like when Cuba Vision was doing the campaigns of El Equipo de Todos, and then
they still do it.
yeah, and they still do it, I mean, basically they're trying to get all the Wilburs and the Washingtons, and, and then they're trying to get all the the Paisas and the Nopaleros, on one other side. So it's like what the fuck, But if you remember the game when the game where the U.S. beat Mexico and Azteca shortly after the
Olympics.
The Olympics. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but the stadium wasn't full.
At all.
And exactly, if the stadium wasn't full, and to try to get people to go to the stadium for a quote unquote La Guerra Fria, they were using basically the Olympic members.
Which, of course, and when it was a terrible ceremony, too. It was, like, embarrassing. It's like, really?
Yeah. There were fireworks. They had fireworks at halftime for some reason.
And like, honestly, I was studying in Mexico, exchange program back in 1999. I was there for the Confederation stuff. And I remember the Mexico game, when we beat them, like, after extra time with Cuauhtémoc Blanco. I mean, I didn't, Mexico. At least I remember, like in the restaurants and all that type of stuff. There wasn't a buzz when Mexico played the U.S. And granted, we played an under 20, or basically a youth, team, a Brazilian team in the '99 Confederations Cup, but it was Brazil, and you can sense who they really. I mean, Mexico would rather see them play against Argentina or have them play against, Brazil. But I just, like I said, it's just like they want to make it happen. They want to make the U.S.-Mexico into this, like, huge rivalry. And I just, like I said, like when I was reading this article, I'm like, they've done their job. At least on this side of the border, they've done their job. The marketers, guys. As Martinoli would say, what is it? What is he called? Herrera? He called him, he doesn't want a marketing coach or some bullshit like that.
Oh, yeah.
Marketinero.
Yeah, there we go. That's what he called him.
Marketinero, yeah. Well, I think the problem is not really a problem, really, but Univision and Telemundo, along with that Equipo de Todos crap, like the English-speaking outlets, every time there's a U.S.-Mexico game, whether it's a friendly or a qualifier or whatever, always run out these stories about how evil the rivalry was and how evil the Mexicans were. Tom Marshall just did an article today, I think, or yesterday, where he talks to both sets of players from previous generations, and Kobe Jones pretty much goes on record saying that they were never dirty. They were never dirty against Mexico. They would never retaliate. And the very next guy they interviewed was Lalas, and he was like, "Yeah, we gave as much as we took. you know, like they want to paint themselves as these Boy Scouts and these victims. Even Tuca said it today. They always want to play the victim card, and that's what draws these younger kids in. They're like, oh wow, we're the underdog. This is my country, and blah blah blah. And especially when you take into account the fact that a lot of these other fans, all these American fans that are not from a Mexican background, it's just easier to just be like, well, yeah, let's screw Mexico, let's just go against them. And at least in my family, I can see it because my family's Colombian. They don't care about the U.S. national team. None of my cousins really care. They don't watch the games. They only follow Colombia. They don't care about how the U.S. does.
Is that because of the '94 World Cup?
No, not at all. It's much like we are. There's a very strong pull towards
Brazil, Argentina.
Well, I mean,
No, I think it's because Colombia is a bigger team. Like you have Guatemalans or Hondurans or Salvadorians. They're not going to root for their team because their teams aren't any good. So they'll go for the U.S.
Yeah, it's like that guy on ESPN, that Guatemalan guy who is like a huge Real Madrid fan. It's like, dude, that's embarrassing.
But hey, guys, don't laugh because we are one, maybe two generations away from being, a Guatemalan or Uruguayan where we're looking to Europe, as like soccer. Because I mean, and Joel and I, we always talk about this, how the Mexican media, they're trying to basically make it so Eurocentric. Like I don't follow all the Mexican players that are in Europe. Like I don't follow them religiously, because I still like watching the Mexican League, and it just seems to me, that earlier we were talking about the golden generation of players. Granted, I can see that the players now are better, now than they were, a couple years back, even 10 years ago. But I would still rather take the generation from 93 to 99 than this generation because they played more collectively. And one of the things, if you noticed the trend, this past World Cup, it was two European teams. 2010, two European teams in the finals. 2006, also two European teams. And one of the things, that really caught my eye, back in watching the when Brazil was getting their asses raped, what was it, 7-1 or whatever it was.
Germany versus
Germany, Brazil. I mean, somewhere down the line where it's a 3-0 or 4-0, no Brazilian player retaliated or was trying to play dirty, or and I'm not trying to say that to be unsportsmanlike, but Ronnie, to show some sort of life, that
or pride.
Or pride that you're pissed off, and just something like what Rafa did, in 2002 again, when he basically just, all right, we lost this, but guess what? I'm taking one of these motherfuckers out, I mean, that's like where's that? I mean, and I guess they've become too methodical and too professional and too, going to Europe and stuff like that.
Well, Ronnie, do you think have they become like homogenized?
It's into to that point. I mean,
that's what I've always thought. That's what I've thought about Brazil, especially in the last, 10, 15 years. Is that I loved Brazil when I was a kid, man. They were the team. I don't know how old you guys are, but that 1982 Brazil team, if y'all ever got a chance to see it, oh my God. And as an 11-year-old, you're like, holy shit, that's me. How can you not just fall in love with that?
13 years ago, but I still won the World Cup, and that was a great team.
Yeah, but my point is that team had, out of the 23 that played, 22 of them played in Brazil. Only one played in Europe, and that was Falcao, and that was it. And I think that's a very interesting point that you're making. It seems like now you have to play, or people are decided that they have to play European soccer to beat the Europeans, and I think it should be the exact opposite.
No, it is. There has to be somewhere down the line. The trend is going to have to be, you're going to have to come back to Mexico. You're going to have to come back to Argentina. You're going to have to come back to Brazil, or Colombia or Uruguay, and you're going to have to start playing from there because I still believe it. I believed this 10 years ago, and I still believe it now. We don't need to. Mexico does not need to go. The Mexicans do not need to go to Europe to learn how to play. It's not that I'm being closed-minded or anything like that. But you have everything in Mexico. You have everything that the Spaniards have. You have everything that the Germans have. You have everything that the English have. You have everything that the Italians have. You have infrastructure. You have good salaries. You have great salaries, actually. You have a competitive league, and you can also attract a great foreign talent. So I mean, you have everything there. So I mean, I don't a Spaniard doesn't have to go and leave the La Liga. An Englishman doesn't have to leave the Premiership. So it's like
that's like an embedded culture, though.
Does the Premier League even have Englishmen anymore?
No.
Their leagues are the best anyway, so they don't need to move. They're playing with the best players over there.
It's funny you say that, because when I was in Johannesburg, I was at the Tambo Airport, and after one of the matches, and I was there, with a British journalist, and we'd basically taken the bus, numerous times, and we were just talking, and he asked me, he's like, have you gone over there to so-and-so? And I was like, no, I've always wanted to go over there to watch a game over there. We were talking about Liverpool because he was a Liverpool fan, and he's like, yeah, man, I really like English football. And then he starts, laughing. Well, it ain't English anymore. And he goes, no, you want English football, you have to go down to the 3rd division. And we started cracking up, and it's in a way it's true, I mean, the only thing that I agree with Sepp Blatter, or one of the few things, is the 6-5 rule, which I don't even think he believed it, wants that anymore. But there was a point where he wanted the homegrown players of 6 and
right.
and 5 foreigners.
Yeah, because Arsenal won the last time they won the Premiership. They didn't field one Englishman on the whole team.
Yeah,
their starting 11 were all everything but.
And I think, and if I'm not mistaken, when they went to the Champions League, I think when Rafa was at Barca, I think they only had one Englishman on the team starting. So I mean, it's pretty bad.
And England blows, man. England's the Guatemala of Europe.
Well, they're not that bad. Hey, come on.
I disagree with the premise that Mexican players go there to learn how to play soccer.
Excuse me.
The Mexican players go there to play against the best and to so your players win, like, let's say they stay in the Mexican League, they win the CONCACAF Champions League, but then you got another player coming back winning the European UEFA Champions League. There's a big difference in not only quality of who you're playing against, but a prestige. People are more afraid playing against a player like Marquez, or they look up to him, even like some of the gringo counterparts used to say, than some player that some defender in the Mexican League. So, like, and me personally, I think it has nothing to do more with development, but by bringing up the self-esteem of the player. If they're playing in Europe, obviously van a ir a la Legión Europea o lo que sea. So there's a prestige and a way to build the psyche of the player. It's not the same as playing in Mexican League.
It's sort of, like, in my opinion, it's sort of like a fanboyism. It's like a deep-rooted culture. You go in Mexico and you'll see like people with all kinds of European club team shirts and jerseys, like all these rich kids and stuff. They don't have like you'll see some Chivas or America shirts, but you see a ton of European, just
it's
people that love Barca, people that love Real Madrid.
Yeah, and that's bad, because I mean, I remember one of the first impressions that I got when I was in China was when you would go into like a typical, like their equivalent of a Foot Locker, where you would see like
was it a sweat shop?
Like Deportes Marti.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh.
All you would see,
What is that?
all you would see was just European club stuff. Like, no, you wouldn't see any of their local team.
You're right, and the local stuff's only on the street sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like we're one generation, we're 1 or 2 generations away from basically becoming, Wilburs, where
I disagree with that, and just for the fact that what we have in the all CONCACAF, how many national teams have players, like 8 players in the Champions League?
But you may disagree with that, and granted, maybe there's a blessing. The Liga MX has, they should be happy that they have the following that they do in the United States, because there's so many of us that basically, I guess, I don't know, maybe call it nostalgia, but we miss something about back home, and we watch our football. But
Even
when
in
you go
Japan.
down, but when you go down to Mexico, to actual Mexico, it's becoming very Eurocentric.
Yeah.
And to me
And
that's
that's
bad.
normal though.
It's not normal. It's normal. I mean, because of globalization, but it shouldn't be normal, because I mean, you should be able to. You should support your club. You should support your league.
I don't disagree with you, but they've been showing the European stuff. I mean, I left Mexico in 1983, and even then they would always show the Champions League and the Eurocopa, and of course they showed all the Real Madrid games because Hugo was playing there, and before that Atletico. But I mean, but I understand what you're saying though, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that maybe there are some players over there, and also the fact that like those shops that you guys are talking about. I mean, the nopaleros aren't going to go to Deportes Marti to get their clothes.
but like I guarantee it's going to be a trend. We suffered to qualify to the last World Cup. We suffered to one of the things that helped out La Volpe. Remember, every month he had access to all the players, with the exception of what I think it was one or two players that were in Europe.
And he also had the easiest path in history. Good Lord.
Yeah, but you remember the previous cycle before that.
It's just good management, You can't fight against good management from him, He knows how to manage a great national team.
Look,
that's not a fault of his.
They gave him unprecedented support. There's no doubt. But then he also had two Banana Republic Caribbean teams actually three in the first round, and then the Hex was, back when Panama wasn't any good, in Guatemala, in Trinidad,
they were terrible.
and Costa Rica. It was a joke.
That's not his fault,
Oh, I'm not saying
he
it's his
earned
fault
that.
at all. All I'm saying is that if it would have been interesting to see how he would have done if there was Honduras and El Salvador and some of these other better teams.
But that wasn't La Volpe. That was actually, and I don't like the guy, but I'll give him credit for this. That was actually Alberto de la Torres, who basically wanted the access to the players once a month. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a lot of like for example, Vergara got into some heated words with La Volpe, and then because he kept taking his players, he also kept taking players from other teams like during the playoff races and stuff like that. But La Volpe was saying, hey, well, I need them. So I mean, there is an advantage of playing guys, using guys that are they're domestic, because I mean we kind of. I don't want to say that that's the reason why Mexico was basically minutes away from not qualifying to Brazil, but I mean, if you think about it, I mean, even Brazil, like I don't remember what was it, two qualifying campaigns ago, I think they qualified in the fourth place.
Talking about Uruguay.
No, Brazil.
Yeah.
I think they were like they got the fourth spot. And I think Uruguay or Colombia, one of those two, basically got it was Uruguay, I think. But it has to do is that you don't have when all your players are abroad, the local the national team coach, he doesn't have access to all his players.
Yeah, and I'll add to that if you're going to play in Mexico City, then your defensive midfielders better play in Mexico City.
Uh-huh.
I'm dead serious. I mean, you guys talk about Torrado and Castro, how good they were. You would never expect it. It's because, that's where they play it. I mean, you try and run against those guys when they're just huffing and puffing in that altitude, for their season, and that makes a huge difference.
Well, you got to remember that, okay, so La Volpe had access to the players, and that's a good thing because, you got to remember that he had to make up. If La Volpe had the same quality of players that the squad right now, I don't think it would be much of a difference. Back then, he had access because the players, it's not the same quality. And he did a lot more with less quality.
Well, we also had a lot more. I mean, there were Rafa. Who else other than Rafa was playing abroad? in 2006.
Yeah.
2000.
I mean, there was nobody.
No.
It was only him.
Yeah, Torrado was back in
Torrado had
Mexico.
come back, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
Torrado had come back.
you know, and let's not forget that they had how many warm up. I mean, they would play them. That was when they had the real Moleros because, you know, they could and you said they were doing it in the middle of the Liguilla, and then wasn't
I went to some of those.
Chivas in the middle of a really good Libertadores run? And
Yeah.
Semis. Yeah.
He made a mistake though. If he would have got to the 5th game, if he would have called Cuauhtemoc, that was his mistake. He would have been a Mexican hero.
His mistake was not having Bofo and Blanco.
Yep. There you go, man. There you go, Pern.
Well, he didn't deserve to go.
He would have been. He probably would have made the 6th game. You know.
He didn't deserve to go, man. His mind was not in a selección, man. I saw him play in a friendly.
He was posing too much, and he was posing too much after
You
scoring
know,
goals.
you know, you say that, Pern, and you know, it's, you know, in hindsight we can all, but the one thing I will never forget about Demo at the end of his career was in Costa Rica when they won that great game 3-0 when they were scoring those counterattack goals. Either the second or the third one, Cuauhtemoc made like an 85-yard run in a dead sprint, matching Gio stride for stride. Yeah.
I think you're thinking of Guardado.
Yeah, no, and I'm talking about Cuauhtemoc. He didn't score, but he was there. He was the wide guy, and that has always depressed me about him. That even in 37 or whatever it was, and all the cigarettes that he smokes, God love him.
He's the greatest.
Yeah, he's our Socrates.
You're not. I don't see another player for Mexico that was able to. I don't see. We don't have one right now that can carry the team.
His national team record is, I mean, no one can touch it.
No, well, I mean, Chicharito's about to break his goals.
No,
and stuff like that.
It's not the goals. It's not when the goals were scored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember we could probably check the art. You could probably check the BSMX archives. But I remember that I written the percentage of the goals that he scored. What goals that were either to equalize the match or to give Mexico the lead. And against the opposition, and it was just like I don't think we've ever had a player like that.
Yeah, he was crazy good.
Well, yeah, he was good when his mind was into it, and I totally I'm grateful for that. I still remember staying up until 5 a.m. watching that Mexico versus Belgica match. Oh wow, I'll never forget that. But I know people change and his priorities change at the time, and he just at that time he's just not ready. So I think Whopper made the right call not to take him.
Yeah, whatever.
It was a beef. They had a beef. They had a beef, so he had a grudge.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that back then I think I may have agreed with you but in hindsight it was just an awful. I mean, Mexico, just like you said, they had no talent in that. I mean, in that team. I mean, we had God love him, Kikín Fonseca as the forward. Hey man, I thought Kikín fucking busted his ass every time he played, and I love him for it. I really did.
He's like the poor man's Cristiano, no talent, but he put a lot of effort into it.
And so I mean, and coming off the bench in against the Argentina game, we just didn't have a guy that could score a goal. I mean, we had 2 shots on goal in that game in the first 10 minutes, and nothing after that.
After that, for like the entire rest of the game. I don't know if I would want one guy to do what Democ used to do. I mean, I think in a way Guardado has been kind of taking over that role, maybe emotionally more than actually on the field itself. But that 2006 team had probably 4 really good players: Osorio, Rafa, Salcido, and probably Guardado and Pardo can take a little bit of that. The rest of the team was just worked really well as a unit, but there were no game changers.
No.
We have game changers now, but it remains to be seen if they can work as a unit when it really comes down to it. I mean, the Croatia game last summer, for example, was one of the best World Cup games I've seen from Mexico in at least my lifetime, and that's probably dating back to 1994. I mean, that game was a top performance from the first minute to the last minute. everyone pitching in, just a tremendous amount of quality that the team showed. Actually, throughout the entire World Cup. I mean, it wasn't until like the last 30 minutes of the Holland game where the team started falling apart in a way. Those are 3.5 games consecutively that were very well played tactically and individually. We need to build from that, and I think that Piojo did that this past summer now with the Gold Cup, with a very compact team, and you could tell the players know their roles. I mean, the execution was off during the Gold Cup, mostly with Miguel Ayun. I mean, people in BSMX know that I had a big thing with Ayun over the summer, but it's just like the entire tournament was terrible for him, except for the last 30 minutes in the final where he got moved to the midfield, and it's like, oh wow, he can actually not give the ball away, like just willfully giving the ball away. I thought it was just overall we have a good base. I don't know if I would say that this team is better than like the 98 team per se, or the 94 team as a team, but individually I think we have some very high points in the midfield and in offense, not so much in defense. I think that the guys that are going to come into this team from the Olympic team are going to be the defensive reinforcement. Raul Lopez, Carlos Salcedo, and hopefully this young kid from Monterrey, Cesar Montes looks like a very, very promising kid. I don't know if like there was talk about bringing La Volpe back when Piojo got fired. That would have been redundant and really, really ridiculous. La Volpe was not. There's nothing more he can give to the national team than what he already did. So
yeah, besides he has a heart condition. I mean, it's just not a good. I mean, I'm being very serious. I mean, why on earth would you want that stress?
Now, would you rather take La Volpe or would you take Osorio?
La Volpe, hands down.
I would take La Volpe in a New York second over Osorio.
I don't know enough about Osorio to make that judgment. I mean, honestly, I have no idea.
My point exactly.
Yeah.
My point exactly. I mean, look, no knock on the guy. He probably knows. The game and everything. But this guy, I mean, look at his curriculum. He doesn't have one. That, granted, I understand Sao Paulo is a big team and stuff like that in Brazil and stuff.
Or Atlético Nacional.
But he doesn't have the curriculum.
I disagree. I think his CV it's you could say it's underwhelming, but he's got one. If anything, the choice itself is underwhelming.
Now, what has he won? And I was one. La Volpe had one title in 30 plus years. 25 years? What does Osorio have?
He has a couple of Atlético Nacional championships, but same thing. Doesn't really mean much.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not entirely sure that bringing in a winning coach, someone with a lot of trophies behind him, is going to be a solution. I mean, we talk about having procesos and having stability for the long term. I don't know there's talk about Jurgen Klopp. I mean, do people really think that Jurgen Klopp was gonna move away from European top club opportunities to come coach a national team?
Well, did you not hear that he settled for Liverpool today?
No. Apparently, I mean, it's just
Those are just fishing expeditions that the Mexican media do. I mean,
exactly. That's the problem. Is that they set the expectations, and then they are taken out. But then they take it out on the supporting cast, and then it's we've created a narrative where everyone in the FMF is incredibly incompetent, like they're all idiots, like this. It's kind of a circus, kind of repetitive joke. I don't believe they're idiots. I can't believe that the people around the federation are idiots. When you look at some of the stuff that is quantifiable that we have got, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
I'm with you on that, and I'm one of the only ones that actually defend the Mexican the Football Federation and the owners, because I for one, I do not believe they're inept or they're stupid. Because I mean, honestly, these guys are, these guys are multi-billion-dollar, they own multi-billion-dollar businesses.
Exactly.
You don't get to. I mean, honestly, you don't. And I mean, and knowing what I know, the little that I know about the Mexican media, most of these fucking journalists, they're idiots. I mean, they're idiots. But what I will say, that some of these guys, even the owners, sometimes they do put people. Nepotism, and they put people that don't belong in a certain position,
like Memo Cantu,
or and stuff like that. So I mean, they do make mistakes, but what my point is why would you bring in a coach like Osorio who really doesn't have a curriculum? Because you have sharks. You're gonna have a press that are always going to be questioning him because he doesn't have the titles. So, or he doesn't have the curriculum to, like, I guarantee you, if you bring in a Pep Guardiola, which honestly, that I could see Pep Guardiola in Mexico maybe in 8 years.
Sure.
If you bring in someone like a Pep Guardiola, even his detractors in Mexico would say, well, it's not like I can criticize the guy because he has won everything. It's like, you bring in a guy like. What do you call it? A Menotti. Even if the detractors couldn't say that he didn't know anything. So I mean, if you're going to bring in a coach, at least bring in a coach where you're not going to have the detractors. You're basically feeding him already to the sharks, and that's why I have a problem with Osorio.
Well, I think but that's almost secondary because at the end of the day. If you look at Osorio, I'm familiar with the guy. I mean, he's like a middle class version of what Sampaoli and Bielsa offer you tactically, and with player advancement. It's like a middle class version. Like he's obviously not at that level. The real problem is the guy has never coached a national team, and so we're kind of the guinea pigs. I think that's where the problem is. If we're going to be concerned about what the narrative is going to be with the press, I feel like that's exactly the problem because they're prioritizing having a big name, a guy that can be on the cover of all the magazines, and a guy that can bring on to the show and talk. Like I'm looking at it like the way that you look at like someone like Gareca, for example, with Peru. Not many people know what he's about, but you want a guy that's going to come in and maximize your talent. Like at the end of the day, I mean, if Osorio apparently is going to be the coach, he's coming into a really a shitstorm, and the only way he's going to move forward is with results. That's what it comes down to.
It's going to be bad because I mean, couple of days ago I was watching Football Picante, and they were talking about Osorio.
People still watch that?
And Sagi, who really is one of the guys, he's always very calm and collected there. You could tell he was pissed when they were talking about Osorio, and you could tell he really wanted to start venting. I mean, and this is Saguinho. I mean, there's going to be he doesn't know what the hell he's getting himself into.
Well,
but that's the question though. Did he? I mean, and the stuff that he was saying, press conferences when he was with Sao Paulo, is like, Mexico's an elite team and it's got a great potential. Did the dude who made first contact, who reached out first? Because it seems like he wants the job. And frankly, right now, I mean, there aren't that many folks that want the job.
And the timing of it is terrible too.
No, there are people that want the job. Hugo wants it. La Volpe wants it.
But La Volpe, look, his act is done. I mean, he didn't have anything else to offer. He just doesn't. It's
that's
I mean, if it was La Volpe from 10 years ago,
honestly, you know what? Honestly, I would take La Volpe. I would take La Volpe now for one reason, because now he doesn't have a detractor like Hugo Sanchez questioning his every move, because Hugo's already been the coach.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Failed.
What's that?
It's not like already failed.
Well, he didn't fail, but he got kicked off.
He got caught up in it.
He got caught up in it. So right now, if La Volpe comes back, you don't have a detractor. You don't have any.
La
So, I mean,
Podrola.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I just think that with his heart condition and his, he's been floating around for the past few years. As it seems to me. I mean, but I understand. I mean, he's a great game day coach. There's no doubt about it, and that's really what you need in the tournaments and these one-offs.
Well, Juan Pablo Osorio, I guess it's just an experiment for now. It looks like.
Well, let me ask you all this. I mean, I'm not sure because I mean, how did his team do in the turn? Not the league, but like in tournaments. Did he have any?
He played. He won two cup tournaments in Colombia. He got to the final of Copa Sudamericana.
With
and right now,
with Nacional?
Nacional, yeah. And he is, well, he just left Sao Paulo, but his team, well, Sao Paulo is now in the semis of the Brazilian Cup. So that's an interesting thing because we need to look at it from a tournament point of view. Because the qualifiers are the qualifiers. They're one-off games, two games in a span of 5 days, whatever the hex. But he, if we're looking at the context of the World Cup, how does he perform in cup tournaments? I think that's a very interesting question.
That's why I'm here.
And that's one of the things that the Liga in Mexico does. The cup. You have season and the knockout stages. So I'm not convinced with this guy. And it's not. And I'm not questioning his knowledge of the game. I don't think he's going to be able to handle. Because I think, just a couple of days, last week he snapped at the reporters over there in Brazil about the questioning. And that's just what he doesn't even have the job and he was already snapping at the reporters.
That's a bad sign already.
It is.
He'll last 6 months or so.
Oh my God.
Well,
I didn't even know that, and he's already doing that.
Well, geez, isn't their first game in San Pedro Sula? Isn't that where the first game is? Right off the bat?
Right. That's correct.
I'm trying to convince myself. That if we get Osorio, I'm thinking, well, the Colombian coaches have done pretty well with the Central American teams. Like the ones from Honduras and Costa Rica, was it Pinto and
Suarez?
Ruedas.
Yes, no, not Ruedas. Ronaldo Ruedas.
Suarez. Yeah, Luis Fernando Suarez. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm trying to just convince myself, but then I'm thinking, nah, that piece of shit must go.
Well,
I think he's going to surprise some people. I'm serious. I think he'll surprise some people.
Let's hope so. Honestly, geez, at this point, it's
up to the players. Hopefully the players just do their thing.
Yeah.
We hit the hour mark, dudes. So.
Excellent. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been cool.
It's been an hour. I'm waiting for Joel because I want to talk to him about Chivas.
Joel's making mole.
Now, hey, what's going on with Angelica? I didn't really get tuned in today with the affairs. What's going on with Angelica?
She apparently took her kids with Vergara, with Jorge, out of the country without him knowing, which apparently got her in trouble with the American authorities. And also, she apparently put her hands into some accounts that were not hers and took out a lot of money from the OmniLife company or whatever. It's just she's apparently Interpol is on her ass. They're looking for her. Apparently, this is what I've heard.
Send her to the chair, please.
Now, is it true that she was pig roasted or something? I heard. I read something on there. Like, what's going on?
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
That's a private matter.
That's a private matter.
I don't know, man.
I'm having so much fun with Chivas right now. In the situation they're in.
So what do you think of Matias Almeida?
I think he'll flake out eventually.
They always do. This is Mexico we're talking about.
He'll flake out. It's a coach doesn't fix a problem. He can only do so much. It's so much. There's so much more, like the organization, from the youth to this to that. And Vergara, one thing that's that has been constant with Vergara is change, and not really in a good way. He's just always changing things and not letting people, follow through. And they're paying the price.
It's shocking that a businessman as smart as he is, well, maybe he isn't. I don't know. Maybe he inherited all his cash. Does he run his business the way he runs that team? I mean, it's just shocking.
Hey, I'm convinced, and I posted this back 10 years ago. I'm convinced, because honestly, who the hell knew about OmniLife drinks? It's a Ponzi scheme. Sooner or later, that's gonna just crumble down, dude.
I thought it was a pyramid. The whole thing was a pyramid scheme, no?
It's like Amway, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
In Houston, before I left, there was an OmniLife center, like a little OmniLife thing.
There's still one in Fort Worth. I drive by it every time I head back to Austin.
But here's the funny thing about it. When I was still living in Houston, I drove by and I'm like, what is it? So like the 2 times that I went there, it was like it was never open. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I remember asking my cousins, like, do you know what OmniLife is? They're like drinks, but like I've never had any.
It's like the Mexican version of Herbalife.
And it's like honestly, I think the guy, I have to give it to Vergara. He was really smart. I mean, he basically paid people. He paid the Chivas, the members, the club members, like the 100 or 200 and something members. He basically paid them with their own money. It's.
Oh, are you talking about the clowns?
Okay, yeah, like the socios, the members. Basically, he even said it years later that he didn't have the money. That would be like the equivalent of someone coming into my restaurant and say, "Hey, I want to buy your restaurant," and I go, "Okay." So basically, what he works when he comes back, he comes in the next day, and from the sales of the restaurant, he's paying me. So it's like I mean,
right?
I mean that's really what that's really what he did. And if you think about it, what he did was he changed the Chivas. It went from an association, basically a nonprofit, and and I remember I posted this, but by the Jalisco civil code, basically when an organization, a nonprofit organization, wants to go to an S corporation or SADCB, basically they're supposed to liquefy all the assets, pay off whatever debts, and then whatever's left, it basically gets thrown into like an auction of sorts.
All right, cool. Nacho Breeze versus the best one. I don't want to hear about finance in a soccer chat. But Matel Almeida versus Ambriz, which one you got better? Who has a better curriculum?
Ambriz doesn't have a curriculum, but he surprises me. I mean, other than being an assistant coach, but you know what? I mean, like for example, when they brought in Paco whatever from Santos, he was the assistant of Rafa Benitez and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, so what?
I will say this: I guarantee you that if America wins a title with him as coach and this guy Osorio fails, I guarantee you Ambriz will be the national team coach in 2017.
Well, that's the problem. It's all very reactionary, and it's flavor of the month. Who's the hottest guy right now? Put him in charge of the national team. I'm kind of sick of that, to be honest. I mean, people were pushing for Caixinha and who else? I mean, I don't even know who else. At one point, Chelis was being. It's just like really, like any dude off the street is like, here, man, just coach the national team. That's why I think this is, in a weird way, it's a bit of a breath of fresh air, even if it's underwhelming. It's get someone in there and let's see how this works. I mean, I think he's going to surprise people. I mean, I could be wrong, but
well, let's hope you're wrong. We want him to do good, no matter what it is.
That guy Ives on the Mexican Soccer Show was talking about. Apparently, he's really close with that guy, and he was saying he's Laura like a Bielsa, really a workhorse, and the way
what? BFF?
Like Bielsa, he's a workhorse.
Yeah, because he coached at Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took the Red Bulls to their only MLS final. It's not really saying much, to be honest, but To be fair, the guy went to the same college that I did, so maybe it's not complete. I'm not being completely unbiased here.
That explains a lot then.
Well, I mean, I think he's got some very, very good ideas. I mean, I think if you look at the player pool and the kind of players that we have right now and their qualities, I think it fits him pretty well.
It definitely does.
And he's a player's coach. The players love the guy, and that's kind of what we have with Miguel Herrera. The players love playing for him.
But
and if
guess
he can
what?
get anything out of that.
But none of the players know him.
That's true. That's true.
None of the players.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly,
So who knew Herrera back in the day when he became national?
Well, so
Everybody knew him.
Yeah.
He's been coaching since like what 1999, 2000. Everybody, I mean, the guy, Herrera had coached Tecos, he had coached Monterrey, he had coached Atlante, he had coached, a bunch of teams. I mean, he knew a lot of the players. And before he won the championship with with America, I mean, he had gone to three or four finals, something like that.
Yeah. And he had been relegated a few times.
Plus, he became internet famous and stuff with his reactions.
It really does make a difference for a coach, and it can help them out, obviously with experience, to know both ends of the business, and not many coaches do.
Yeah. And
let's just hope he surprises in after the qualifiers and he does well. That's the only thing we can do at this point, right? Because is he confirmed
honestly,
yet or no?
if he could get us 4 points in November, then that's going to be enough for me, and see what he does. He's not going to have the moleros like previous coaches have had, because all his guys play in Europe. That's why I advocate that if they're going to, if they make it to the Hex, that to move the games around, because I don't think playing Mexico City is as much as an advantage as it used to be when 8 of the 11 guys, play at sea level. Doesn't make any sense.
They're gonna bunker. They're gonna park the bus.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, go play in Monterrey. Go play in other stadiums, and
that new shiny stadium.
Don't tire your own players out. I mean, they're not used to it.
All right, man. Let's
you locking it up? You locking it up?
Hold on. Anybody watching the Rugby World Cup?
No.
I don't get it down here. It's like paper.
It's too violent. It's too violent for me.
No, that's a poor man's football, American football.
Dude, the U.S. got spanked hard, dude. 64-0.
What's that like in soccer equivalent? Like 5-0?
10-0.
Okay.
It's like in dog years.
What is it? A try is what? 5 points. A try?
Yeah, try's 5, and then the extra point's 2. So yeah, it's like 10-0.
Wait, who spanked them? Who beat them?
Samoa.
No. No, South Africa.
Oh, the Springboks. Those guys are
the Springboks.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah, Matt Damon was captain.
I'm telling you, hey, if you guys get a chance to watch Australia and New Zealand, dude, it's even if you've never watched it, even if you don't know shit about the sport, I guarantee you watch them play, dude. Because I mean, it's like when I'm watching, it's like video game.
I like watching.
It's crazy, insane, dude.
Oh, so you're saying you're watching the rugby, playing the rugby video game right now?
No, I used to have one for the Xbox, and I was like, I remember, like, a couple years back, I used to play it a lot, and it's like, dude, when I'm watching these guys are making it so effortless. It's like it's amazing. I don't know. It's just you guys got to watch it, man. It's fun to watch.
All right, boys. I'll see y'all next week.
All right.
All right, guys. Hey,
thanks a lot for showing up.
All right, guys.
Keep it real. Keep it simple.
Mexico wins on Saturday, by the way. 5-0 again.
Okay,
2-0.
5-0.